Hey guys, and welcome back to another lap guide here on the Coach Dave Academy YouTube channel. My name is Matt Emery. We're here for week 8 at the Daytona circuit. Let's first get into the hot lap. So starting the lap off here then, down the pit straight, head down towards turn 1. You want to brake nice and early, a lot earlier than you would expect. Down to second gear, just trailing all the way off the brake pedal until we get to the apex, and then on the throttle, straighten the car up, and then just straight as you can through here. Pull it to the left-hand side, braking in a straight line, down to second gear, and then just a nice U-shape round the apex, nice and smooth, and then straighten the car up again on the exit, and then completely flat through this next left-hander, using a slight bit of the curb on the inside. Then you're going to be in the middle of the circuit for this horseshoe, down to second gear again just trailing the brake quite a lot there just to get the nose in, and again straightening the car up before we get on the throttle. Pull it back to the right hand side, open this one up as much as you can with the curb on the right, and then nice and smooth on the throttle with the combined exit. Very easy to lose the rear there, so just be careful for that one. And around the banking with the oval, try and keep it as close as you can to the yellow line and the inside without touching it. And then spot your braking zone just before the number 2. Down to fourth gear, clip the first apex, down to third gear, pick up the throttle, and then smash the throttle for the exit. And then it's a complete run to the line for the final bit of the lap. Again, just trying to keep the steering wheel as straight as we can, or not move it as much as we can, and then stick into the yellow line on the inside without touching it. And again, as straight as we can here. And this goes on for a long time. It's very easy to overtake here, and that will complete a lap. So let's get into the hot lap guide then for the Daytona circuit in a bit more detail. Heading down towards turn 1 here. Just want to keep it to the right hand side initially, just to open up the initial part of the braking phase. And then you want to slam the brakes on. You do have a 100-meter board you can use as a reference here on the inside. You've also got this white line, which is also 900-meter board you can use as a reference. You want to start braking just at that point there. And then you don't really want to brake too hard for this one. You just want to have it about 60% initially and just hold the brake all the way in for this one. And then just trail off towards the apex. Really, you don't really want to have more than 60% on the brake, just as you're going to risk locking up your front tires as you're turning and braking at the same time. So just play that through for you. You pay attention to the brake trace here. So it's nice and smooth, and slowly just trailing off and letting go of the brake until we get to the apex about here. And your apex point is just after these tires here. It sticks out a bit with the white line as well. Then you want to get back on the throttle. You notice at this point we're just about 60% or so until the car's nice and straight and we can get on full throttle. So this is what turn 1 looks like in the Delta app, guys. Very hard to get right. Turn 1, it always catches you out, no matter how many times you practice it. You can see the brake trace here, as usual. We also got the steering, speed, throttle, all things like that. So first thing you notice, we're very, very smooth on the brake pedal here. We come up to about 60%, or 62 to be exact. Just a nice smooth arch onto the brake, really nice and smooth up to the peak pressure. And that's just to avoid the front lock-in. If you slam the brakes on, you're just going to lock up and go straight on at turn 1. And you notice all the way in, as it's such a long corner, it's 2 corners really in one. It's just really, really smooth, just trailing off it slowly. And then we start turning the car, you can see with the steering angle here into the apex, and we're just trailing off as we do so. And then at that point, we get to the apex and we start getting back on the throttle. Just got to manage the traction on the exit just slightly, just while you straighten the car up. You can see we've just come to about 50%, and we steadily increase it. And then once we know we've got the grip in the rear and that traction, we plant the throttle up to 100%. But yeah, this is probably one of the trickiest corners on the track, along with the chicane, the bus stop chicane at the end. Those are the 2 I would focus on as much as you can to get right, gain a lot of time, because people will make mistakes there. But yeah, anyway, back on with the hot lap guide. And then completely flat through here. And pull it back to the left-hand side. And then again, nice and straight for a braking. Just at the end of this white line, you want to start braking. There's also a 100-meter board. Again, you can use it on the right-hand side. However, if you look in the car, it's not really in the eye line. It's quite hard to see. So yeah, braking really at the end of this line here, where the line stop. And then down to second gear. Again, it's braking in a straight line. and trailing the brake all the way into the apex. It's quite a long corner, quite a long hairpin. And then at this point, you want to be back on the throttle, not fully, just as we straighten the car up. And then by this point, by the time we get to the end of this curb, the car wants to be pointing sort of this direction, out towards the outside curb. So you can see we're full throttle, straightening the steering up, just allows us to get a bit more traction as the car's straight, and then trail it out all the way to the curb on the exit. And then this next section is completely flat. Go as far to the right as you can, just to open up a bit more. And you're going to find yourself in the middle of the circuit on the exit. Pull it back slightly to the left-hand side just before we start braking. And your braking zone for this one, or your braking point, is sort of the end of this curb, the start of this bit of tarmac here on the left-hand side with the cones as well. And again, not braking too hard, about 65% or so. And then trailing the brake all the way in. You notice we actually nearly let go of the brake completely at this point. And then we put a slight bit more brake pressure on just to get the nose in and rotate it for this section here, just to follow this curb round on the inside. Really important that you just follow this curb round, really, just to get the on the throttle as early as you can and get the exit speed. Again, just notice by this point we're already on full throttle. And just let the car trail out again, straighten it up, use all of the curb on the exit, and then pull it back to the right-hand side. As I said in the hot lap, just using all of this curb on the right-hand side that you can. Again, braking about 50% here, not too much pressure. Down to second gear, use all of the exit curb, and you just really got to manage the throttle on the exit there, just to watch the traction as it is combined, but it's not too much of an issue. And then this section, obviously completely flat, just following the yellow line on the middle, on the bottom of the circuit, the banking. And this is probably one of the hardest corners, especially in qualifying, to get right, just as it's so close to the track limits. So this is one you're really going to want to practice and get your reference points in. So initially, just braking after this number 2. And then, again, about 60% on the brake pedal there, you can see, 70% maybe. And you just really want to trail it in again, let go of it quite a lot here. You really want to be aiming for this white part of the curb as well on the inside, just to make sure you're keeping this as straight as you can. Try not to touch the grass, as it will be an off track. Obviously, that will ruin your qualifying lap. And it's very easy to pick them up in the race as well. But we're still trailing on the brake here, still not let go of it. We've shifted down to third gear as well. And then finally, we get on the throttle now. And just be a bit patient here, because you're going to have to wait until you're just in front of this curb on the exit, and that should be completely flat. It's really, for this whole chicane, it's best just to focus on the exit as much as you can, because then obviously you've got that massive long straight to the line. So really important to get your exit right. But yeah, this is what it looks like in slow motion. You can see we're just trailing off into this first apex, down to third gear, slightly increase the peak pressure, and then on the throttle early as we can. You want to clip, again, this white bit of the curb on the inside. That's going to be the line you want to take through all of these curbs, really. So you can see we hit it there. You've hit it here again. And then bang, full throttle, and we use all of the white bit of the curb as well. And all it is from now, very straightforward, just following the yellow line round as low as you can without touching it, really. If you do touch it, it just unstabilizes the car a bit, and you can lose a slight bit of time, but it's not the end of the world. Just sticking as close as we can to it, all the way towards the line, and that will complete a lap of Daytona. So that was the hot lap guide then for the Daytona circuit for week 8 of the Porsche iRacing series. Hope that was useful for you guys. As usual, check out all the latest data packs at coachdaveacademy.com. All the latest hot lap guides as well for this week will be available on this channel. But yeah, I will see you next week for week 9. So take care, guys.